Good afternoon. My name is Lila. I'd like to start by thanking Monica for covering requesting solutions. Today I'm going to talk about identifying solutions when you have a conflict with a coworker. During my presentation, I am going to touch on several topics. I'm going to start by talking about understanding the solution. I'm going to move on to considering your role in the conflict. Then I'm going to talk about talking to your coworker, staying positive, coming up with solutions, and the outcome. Oftentimes, we let our emotions cause us to misinterpret the facts. Therefore, it is important to fully understand the situation and keeping your emotions out of it. It would be helpful to jot down the situation as you see it as it happened and review it a day later to see if your perspective has changed. Sometimes when our emotions are involved, what will happen is that we will misinterpret things. And by jotting this down and kind of revisiting it the next day, you'll find that either other facts come up or you will realize, maybe I should have not reacted in the way that I did. But a couple of things that you can do to make sure that, when you're evaluating the situation would be you ask yourself a couple of questions. Do you have all the facts? If you don't have the facts, then you gather the facts. Because sometimes if you gather the facts, all the facts, you will realize quickly that there's really not a problem and the solution's there. There's not a problem. But once you gather the facts, you have to ask yourself, is there really a conflict? If there is, then you do have to deal with it head on. Although it's difficult for many of us to take a good look at ourselves, whenever there's a conflict, you have to. You have to look at yourself and decide what your role in that conflict is. It's hard sometimes, I know, but it is important because every conflict involves more than one person. And you have to understand what your role is, and you have to take responsibility for your role. So you need to make sure that you understand that. So one of the ways to make sure that you understand what your role was in the conflict is maybe ask somebody for their opinion. And you take their criticism and you don't get defensive. Getting defensive just ruins your credibility. You also have to control your emotions. A lot of times we let our emotions get in the way, and it really does slow down the process of resolving a conflict. I think in today's time and day and age, technology has really taken over our lives, and it's great in many, many ways. However, when dealing with a conflict, you really should just keep technology out of it. You need to deal with every conflict head on and face to face, avoiding using email and text, and this is why. In email and text, you can come across in a very different way than what you intended. So for example, I know that there's people out there that when they send text in all caps. Not sure why they do that, but they do. And when you do that, you just assume that they're yelling at you. And that may have not been their intention. So that's one reason why I would avoid using text or email when trying to resolve an issue. Okay. You also don't, in text or email, you can't really tell when somebody's sincere. So if they're offering up a solution or if they're offering an apology, are they truly being sincere? So I think it's important face to face, you deal with it head on. Okay. During this entire process, I do believe that it's important to stay positive. All parties have to stay positive. When there is some negativity there, it's going to slow down the progress. So staying positive is key here. I think during this process, it's also important that all parties give their point of view of the situation and that no one is taken anything, that criticism is not taken in the wrong way. You listen carefully, and I think if you do that, it's really going to help your situation. Okay. Solutions can be brought to the table in many ways. One, you can offer a solution in a positive way. You can also ask for suggestions of a solution, but if you do that, it's important to make sure that you truly listen to that suggestion and that you really take it into consideration. And, between you and the coworker, you should be able to come up with a solution. If you're lucky and both parties in the conflict are being reasonable, this should resolve, the problem. These tips that I've given you should help you resolve an issue in a positive way and in a way that you can move on and get things done. Okay? Couple things to remember. Be sure to continue to have open communication and check in with your coworker from time to time to make sure that things are going the way you both expected. Okay? Because sometimes things can get off track, and if they do, you just kind of revisit, the process that I just gave you, and I think you should come up with some good solutions. This is how I personally believe you can identify solutions when you have a conflict with a coworker. There are other ways out there, but these are the ways that I have found that works for me. So I hope that this was helpful. And now I'd like to introduce you to Damon, and thank you for your time.